Kennedy out of the middle, goes down towards Pavlich at half forward. He and Lonigan battle, bounces. Pavlich got a chance to wrap it up here. Thought about Walters, sold the foot candy, right foot, straight, punt right end. You are a superstar. Matthew Pavlich kicks his sixth goal.
Good afternoon / evening, Monkey.
Juddy, how are you?
Mate, I'm quite well considering the weekend's events. All right, should we jump straight into it?
Yeah, we will. We'll jump in and review the game. We'll have a talk about it. There's a bit to go through.
Yeah,
we'll
definitely.
We'll try to kick things off on a positive note. From you, I suppose, to start things off, you one positive.
Look, I thought Brad Hill was good, but I'll let you talk about him. I'm gonna go Weller. I thought really started to show that he could be someone that can break the lines and try things, and stood up when we had, guys like Michael Johnson and people really not stand up. So I'm going to go with Weller. I thought he was trying to do things in a bad situation.
Well, yeah, my obvious one's Brad Hill. Had not some reservations with him coming over from Hawthorn, but I thought he was a player and a good team. But he just seemed so dangerous when he had the ball, and his possessions and metres gained are just worth so much. And I think he's just slotted in and done what we'd hope that our other new recruits would do. When you look at what they're doing, like Kirsten, can't criticise them too much because they haven't been fed the ball a lot. But I think what Hill's going to bring to our midfield and his ability, he just seems so smart as a footballer, which is something that I think we, as Fremantle, we tend to lack smart footballers like him. He's just so clinical, finds space, gets the footy. And yeah, he was a big plus for me watching him run around.
Yeah, well, it's much better watching him run around than guys like Subin. But looking at the scoreboard, so 22 goals, 13, 145 to 8, 856, and I reckon 4 of those goals were in the last quarter. So it was grim. 87 points. Somehow we've managed to come away winning the clearances 39 to 36, and we also obviously won hitouts with the biggest man in the world, 48 to 30. So we're obviously not terrible in the middle, but it's what we do with it. Is that what you reckon?
Our ability to win it out of the middle just seems to always end up going backwards to control the footy. It's like they want to get it to half back to begin heading forward, which I think is fine, but when it breaks down at half back, it breaks down terribly. And I'm not saying it has to come out of the middle with a quick kick over the top, hoping that McCarthy or someone can bring it to, or Kirsten can bring it to ground. But I think if you're going to go back and have someone down there sitting, there needs to be, because they were getting not easy clearances, but a lot of our good clearances would end up on the half-back flank and then just have nothing heading forward. And Port was just reading it. And once they'd lost it, they would just go back and set up and just play kick it to me.
Yeah. Look, I completely agree, and I think we win the ball, and it's like we watch teams like Hawthorn and Geelong do this. They go backwards slightly, but they do it with this purpose to go out wide and then start sprinting forward or attack that sort of wing target and then get it deep. Whereas we go back slowly, go wide slowly, and then kick it to the same spot it would have gone with a quick kick out of the middle anyway, to sort of 55 out from goal to a 4-on-2 to their advantage. And we ended up just like spilling it, and everyone's run forward, and it's an easy rebound. So those are definitely something to work on. I mean, it's positive that we can actually win the ball win clearances in an 87-point loss. But it goes to show that it's not just about the raw figure about clearances. What you do with it's so crucial.
Yeah, exactly. And that's probably my biggest negative from the weekend, was that we were winning the clearances, but we just weren't able to. At some point, we had to change our game plan and had to swap from obviously what we were trying and not working, but switch it up. Even if we had to go back to old school Ross Lyon, like lock it down, go down the boundary, like I just reckon we had to do something else. Like things weren't working, and for us not to be able to swing momentum, slow them down, do something differently. Like I don't care if Port Adelaide have to win by, they can win by 21 points and only kick 40. Like I don't care.
Yeah.
But you can't just let a game blow out like that and just seem to make no progress. And I'm not saying switch back to a slow or whatever, but like you have to erect momentum. Like you have to change it in a game like that, especially playing away.
Yeah, It's worried me the last season and this year, so the last sort of 18 months or whatever, that Ross Lyon's plan B seems to have gone out like to the toilet almost. Like it used to be that when shit started getting real, he'd pull something out, and it seems like our plan B now is just to sort of keep bleeding goals. And I don't know. I don't know if that's a reflection of Ross or it's a reflection of he's sort of bled the stone absolutely dry, and there's nothing left for him to get a rise out of. It is worrying that we can see it unfolding from our living rooms, and there's nothing you can do about it as a coach. Because obviously he can see these things too.
Our combined total for 2017 wouldn't have been Port Adelaide.
Yeah, so that's good as well. 2 games worth of points would still lost by 40 points. So that's good, isn't it? Well, the other thing, like Johnson hasn't gotten any better this week. It's a bit worrying because he's in the twilight of his career, and I thought he would come back after a year off. So that's really worrying. Walters had another pretty bad game, I thought. As a forward, it's hard to do something, and we were talking about this before. It's hard to make something happen when the ball comes in so terribly, but it's a bit worrying. And poor old Blakely in his 30-odd game career had probably his worst game. He was just unsighted. And old D. Pearce in his 250th just kept rolling on like he has for the last 249, didn't he? High kicks, everything like that.
I don't know why Port Adelaide was booing him. They should have really been cheering him, because I don't think they'd really want him back in Port colours.
Yeah. Well, I don't get that. Like, when Collingwood booed Cloak, it's like, I'm pretty sure you didn't play him, and that's why he left. I'm pretty sure you traded him. It's a bit weird. It'd be like us booing Mick Barlow. It's like, we got rid of him. Why are we booing him? The guy just wants to get paid for a living.
He wants to get a tan.
Yeah, a tan over in Goldie, mate. He'd probably catch a disease if he gets a tan over there. All right. You're bringing up something regarding the league and full forwards and the standing of that. Do you want to have a quick chat about that?
Yeah, I was watching Big Buddy Franklin run around Sydney against the Bulldogs and almost single-handedly turning the game on its head. And when you look through the stats of what Buddy's been able to do in his career, he sits 12th on the all-time goal scorers, and he will go into the top 10. I reckon he's going to kick 1,000, and he'll probably finish somewhere 6th or 7th, which is just behind Gary Ablett's tenure. And the only other current player is Nick Rewalt. He's the only one on the list. He's 102 goals behind Buddy. I don't think we'll ever see a forward like that. I don't think we will ever see someone kick as many goals as Buddy.
So after talking about all that, negativity of the first 2 rounds, I guess, a lot of people, particularly on Facebook, and it boils my blood to read them, but I can't stop reading them, are talking about, Ross should go, he's past it, we need a new coach, which, each to their own. So what do you think about Ross Lyon in his first 2 games? Like, what could he have done differently?
Too much differently. Not knowing their preparation and being able to watch it firsthand, it's tough to tell, but I don't think Ross coached them to play anything like that. I don't think he expected that. He did take responsibility in the first game, which I thought was just mostly for the interview. I mean, they're going to have to come better than that. I don't think a knee-jerk reaction or talk like that does any good. I mean, you can sack the coach and get 1 or 2 quick charity wins, but you're still suffering from the same problems. You're not changing the personnel. I'll happily back Ross, if the club backs Ross, to get a silverware. Like, it has to be years to do it. The Doggies were able to do it in 2 from their rebuild.
In very unique circumstances, but I agree, yep, they were.
Very unique, but I'm happy to sit and wait, because I think there's nothing worse than finishing between 6th and 10th. Yeah. You could be Richmond if you wanted to. You can happily go support them. You can win some critical games. You can finish thereabouts. You can finish 9th. But I just think that's pointless, because you've either got to be at the bottom coming up, or if you're finishing in those positions, you've got to be finishing in those positions with players looking to improve heavily and progress here. And I think that we're gonna head towards that. And if you're getting upset after these first 2 weeks, you shouldn't be looking to drop Ross.
Look, I couldn't agree more, and particularly I liked your point about finishing, in that middle range of the ladder. So the North Melbourne curse, basically. So they basically have just not been able to get out of that position, either up or down. Last year, everyone, when they were undefeated, they were definitely playing over and above themselves. And then they came crashing down and got knocked out first week of finals. So, again, they're just stuck in that middle position. They don't get a good draft pick, and they don't get any. They don't get deep into finals. And they made two or three bad prelims, I think. And I think in terms of Ross Lyon, sorry, I don't know how you can blame him for spur kicking to a Port player at the top of the defensive goal square, or Johnson doing that last week, or guys just doing terrible kick. You can't blame a coach for a person's individual decision. You can only blame them for structural things, training, those sort of things. And it seems like they've been doing the right thing in training, and they've just come out and crumbled under pressure. So I don't know. It's hard to know. Behind closed doors, I imagine Ross Lyon isn't saying, "Guys, this is all my fault. You guys aren't doing anything wrong." I imagine he is cracking the whip and saying, "You guys need to be better because it's a professional sport, and if you don't want to try and get better, you should get out." Which I'd love to see some candid Ross Lyon behind closed doors, because I've heard it's absolutely mental. I think people are so shallow with the shortest memories when they start saying that Ross Lyon needs to go, because we're angry, and it's just an emotional thing. We're angry that we're doing badly, but we're not thinking about why we're doing badly. We're just blaming someone because we can. It's like blaming Dawson for us losing like that. He didn't help us to win, but it wasn't Zach Dawson's fault that we lost like that. I think it's very shallow football supporters call for those things. Yeah.
Yeah, and Ross isn't going to walk into a post-game interview and say we butchered the ball. Him, and him. He walks in as level-headed as he can. He spins off a few vague comments and just looks to move on, because that 10-minute interview doesn't mean anything in terms of Freo resurrecting any kind of form. So he's just looking to move forward and possibly and hopefully get in those change rooms to start screaming at him.
Oh, I can imagine he's unloaded, particularly after a few of these games where it really was just individuals doing the wrong thing rather than bad luck or anything like that. You can only blame so many external things before you have to be like, okay, what did we do wrong? And I think Ross is always quite good at saying, no, we did things wrong. There's not often that he says it wasn't our fault if we lose or win or whatever. He's quite pragmatic like that. It's whatever shit happens in footy, but what are you going to do? Sit there and cry about it? We've just got to prepare for next week. So I don't know. I can't see us fixing what this is by binning a coach after 2 weeks, bringing in some spud new person that we have a history of getting besides Ross Lyon. Who are we going to get as a coach? Paul Rue's going to come over, is he? What are we going to do?
Peter Sumich in so that we win the Derby in 2 weeks, and then we lose every other game of the season.
Peter Sumich, the fact that I think the Dockers were almost like, yeah, he's a really good assistant coach, trying to get rid of him the last couple of years. The guy talks like he's good at breaking rocks with other rocks, more or less.
Unless we get Alistair Clarkson.
Oh, I would love Alistair Clarkson. I think the amount of coaches that have come out of Hawthorn, the amount of players and coaches that have come out of Hawthorn and made something of themselves, that people talk about their football program a lot, but they've almost made the AFL what it is over the last 10 years.
Yeah, and I think returning to what we talked about, Brad Hill, probably most of his is a credit to their coaching staff.
Look at Mitchell, Jordan Lewis going out, even a lot of their other players that have left. Even Sean Savage isn't a bad player. He was just a fringe player that had to go somewhere else to get a game, and he's not a bad player. All the coaches that have come out of there, so Bolton, Simpson, there's 4 or 5 others that have come out of there. So it's pretty crazy that Hawthorn have sort of, got their fingers in pies all over the AFL. All right, enough depressing Ross Lyon talk. This is a bit more of a fun one. So
should we answer the only question that we got this week?
What was the question we got this week? I didn't check.
Jared Williams, devoted listener, first time caller.
Yeah.
Wanted to know how Fife goes living up to the standards of being Elliot Yeo.
Oh, it's Frio's Elliot Yo.
Yeah, well, I've got some stuff here because I thought Jared's an avid listener on a Friday because work's quite slow on Friday. So I thought
What does Jared do with himself?
civil engineer out of Bunbury working for Calibre Consulting.
Oh, nice. Spreadsheets, mate, and maths and calculators. Building bridges.
Yeah, 100%. And plenty of time to listen to good podcasts.
Exactly. All right, so Fife handling the expectations of being Frio's Elliot Yo. I think he probably would answer that question if you put it to him saying, who is Elliot Yo? But I think he handles it quite well. Side note, Elliot Yo, because he came from Brisbane, and a mate of mine used to be a trainer down at the Eagles when he first came over. Elliot Yo would drink at halftime and pre-game pickle juice. So, literally the juice out of a jar of pickles. So apparently...
Whitey does that well.
Whitey does do that. He eats whole capsicums as well, like an apple. Apparently he drinks it because it acts like... Have you ever seen those concentrated beetroot drinks? They're supposed to be good for sports performance.
Is that... And that's what the pickle juice is?
Same thing, yeah. So he used to drink pickle juice. So Fife probably just needs to start drinking more pickle juice, and then he'll handle that expectation quite well.
Well, I did a bit of research on him and how he's travelling so far this season. He's averaging 25 possessions a game. He had 13 marks last week. He had 10 marks against North. He also kicked 2 goals against North. He's a good player. However, he is a spare man for West Coast on the halfback flank, where probably 90% of those marks come from. I think in the company of Fife, I don't think he quite gets there. He doesn't quite qualify yet. He does take some good overhead marks, which would excite 90% of the West Coast fan base. But in terms of that comparison, I think it's incomparable. Yeah,
I think so too. A mate of mine a couple of years ago said, Yo is the next Fife, and we laughed at him quite a lot because that was an outlandish thing to say. But he's a pretty good player, whatever. I don't really care too much for Yo. I think he's promised a lot more than he's delivered, so... Until he starts delivering a bit more, he's just going to be a, potential. All right, so have you got any medical questions for me this week?
No, I don't. I started on a new building site and there were no questions coming in.
Did you ever ask about the Johnny Walker thing or Jack Daniels thing?
No, I haven't brought that up with my mate about that. And I didn't quite discuss it at length when it first came up because it was like it wasn't meant to be something funny. It was just like quite adamant that was the case.
Who knows, mate? The body's a mystery. All right, so there's a new little segment. So everyone knows what AFL Fantasy or Dream Team is, and generally the idea is to get a player that gets the most possessions and stats. So we're going to take a different angle and try and find the reverse fantasy team of the year. So you're going to select 3 players, and I'm going to select 3 players, and the scoring will be done by subtracting the score they get from 100, and that's the score they get. So say you get 5 points, then you get 95 points, and that's a good score. So the old number 1 draft pick is always going to be a Zach Dawson type who punches the ball more than they get a possession. You know what? I'll defer the first pick over to you and see who you take. Who are you going to take, mate?
Well, and we should let the listeners know that the country football fantasy is going to come into full effect. We just have to wait for them to start.
Yeah, so we jumped the gun a bit there. We'll go after Easter. We'll be an Easter miracle after that.
Okay, but I've picked games. So my strategy looking through the round was to pick games where I think teams are going to get flogged, players are going to perform poorly, and I'm locking in Zach Dawson.
Yeah, Zach Dawson's the obvious pick there. So I'm going to go along the same lines as a defender, but I don't think this team will get flogged much, but I don't think he'll get much of the ball, and I'm going to go with Daniel Talia.
Sticking in the back line.
Big fist. Hopefully he doesn't start using the ball very well.
I'm going to swing things up forward. I'm pretty sure he will play, may not, Big Mason Cox from Collingwood.
Yeah, Mason Cox is back in this week, I saw, so that's not a bad one. I'm really quite torn here. Ex-Docker Chris Mayne looks like a really, really good forward pickup. So if only he didn't tackle so well, he'd probably score 0 every week. But I'm going to go with the ultimate battler, Taylor Hunt, for the Richmond Tigers. Because he's not going to get dropped while they're still winning. All right, third and final pick for you.
Locking in B. Eddie from Port Adelaide.
Oh, Brett Hetty. B. Eddie. Side note, Brett Hetty's nickname used to be Jobby. Fact. All right, so my final pick's going to be he actually got he actually got punched on the jaw by Hogan on the weekend, but Sam Rowe, old glass jaw Rowe.
All right, we'll lock it in. Since we're looking at fantasy markets and odds, should we have a look at some good bets getting around in the AFL this week?
Yeah, so a segment we're going to call the Jared Ruffies. What we're going to do is a little bit of another competition. We're just going to find out who's the best person at footy after this whole season. So looking at picking a roughie for a head-to-head match this week. You want it to be sort of $3 odds or over, so a decent roughie, not just $1.95. And there's quite a few big ones this week. So who do you reckon you're going to take this week, Monkey?
I'm going to put $5 on Carlton. I think that loss against Melbourne, it was tight. They were in it at the third quarter. I think there were a bit of emotions getting around. It's at the MCG against Essendon. I'm kind of not waiting for an Essendon drop off, but it's early on in the season. I'll be interested to see what happens with them long term. Still, obviously not sold on them, but I'm pretty sure they could have a day where they don't rock up. Carlton playing $5.10. So, I mean, I'm going to put 5 on that.
$5 is nice. All right. So, along a similar line, I had $20 on the Kangaroos this week, paying $5 something. I was pretty confident up until they went to pieces. So, missed out there. But you know what? I'm a man that gives teams second chances, obviously, because I'm a Dockers supporter. And I'm going to put my money on the Kangaroos this week at $5.25. They're playing GWS. GWS had basically a training run on the weekend. Like, they didn't hit any bodies. They could have and the Roos had a tough game, and they'd be reeling after losing again. So I reckon they're going to come out and shock GWS.
Fair point.
All right, let's have a look at some other predictions for this week. We've got the Bulldogs on Saturday night at Domain Stadium. Oh, it's a worry, isn't it?
I'll be there live. Probably looking forward a bit to watching the Doggies, especially after watching them against Sydney. Getting to see people like Bontempelli run around, I think it'll be good. It'd be interesting to see how far this axe swings and who we bring in, but really interested to see the response. I mean, it's back at home after probably one of the worst losses. I mean, I can't think of anything like that in recent history. So, really interested for the first 5 minutes to see how they react. I thought after round 1 that there would be some kind of reaction. Obviously didn't come. So I think maybe the axe swings far, maybe it doesn't. Either way, that first 5 minutes is going to be the telltale sign of the game, really. I think it's going to be pretty clear after that as to the end result.
Just waiting for that first turnover, crowd groan, and then we're done, basically.
I will try and write down everything because we sit near some colourful members.
Some
and I'll try to
colourful personalities.
Yeah, some good football personalities. I'll keep note of the things that they say.
Oh, please do. I'd love an audio. This week I think the expectations are going to be really low. I hope we can show effort and fight. I think you can take a lot of positives out of this game by putting guys like, say to Blakely, all right, Blakely, you're on Bontempelli. Similar to what they did Sam Powell-Pepper on Fife. Go and learn of that guy. We're not going to win. Who cares? We're not going to make finals this year. You go and run with him and develop. Weller, you can put him on guys. You can start to put these young guys, give them really big opportunities to do something and have a crack. And I think you can find positives in this sort of thing. That's what the Bulldogs were doing a couple of years ago. So that'll be really good. I think the changes over under is probably set at about 4.5. I reckon 3 or 4 people have to come out, don't they? And Harley Ballick, if he doesn't come in this week, something's wrong. So it'll be interesting to see what the match committee does, which Ross always talks about the match committee. But it's probably just him in a room by himself making some decisions. Sort of not looking forward to it, but I'm a lot less excited for it, which means I'll be a lot less disappointed after.
Heading closer and closer to the 0-4 start.
Mate, the Owen gags really haven't gotten any funnier since last year, have they?
The Dockers memes have got pretty good though.
Yeah, it's one thing when you're hurting about a topic, but then you see a good meme for it, and it sort of like half cheers you up a little bit.
But no, I'll be there at the game, and do look forward to it.
All right, thank you very much for tuning in, and we look forward to many more comments from Jared and hopefully a few medical questions next week. Cheers, team.